Hello and welcome to the Bracket Show. It is Sunday afternoon, Sunday night actually, here, and round 7, guys. We're almost done. How are we feeling? Adam, Marisol?
Woo. Oh my goodness.
We need to break. We had to get out of Dodge. We had to hit the road. Bracket Show was too much. We are on the road. We are in a hotel.
Yes.
We are on the road. It's been a good weekend. But we're ready to charge forward. We're getting down to the nitty gritty with the bracket.
Yes. Look, to be honest with you, a lot of these matchups lately, Jacob, have been problematic. And you created movies, and so it's your fault.
Fair.
That's the most articulate way I could put it.
That's going to go on Jacob's headstone.
Mara, how are you?
I'm well. I had something interesting happen today. I waited until now because I wanted to be dramatic. I had a fitting for a dress that I'm going to wear next month at a certain wedding for 2 certain peoples. Because I'm on the ball. That's not a you thing. That's an everyone else thing. I'm just proud of me because honestly, I would have expected me to be dead last and freaking out.
No, you were the first.
That is exactly who I am right now. No. I expected me to be the weekend before, panicking, saying, I better not need it tailored. It better fit the way it fits. But even with 5-inch heels, it needed a 3-inch hem. So, that's life for tiny people.
Oh. You said 5-inch heels, and my ankles started to hurt. Hearing it.
Taylor, how are you?
I'm good because it's football Sunday, and there was the perfect opportunity for the Chargers to charger it up by blowing it and losing to a team that no one should be losing to
the worst
right
team
now.
in football.
Because that's just what we do. And miraculously, we did not do that. We put on a respectable score, and we played pretty well. And we're 2-0. We're starting 2-0 for the first time since 2012. I was in high school the last time that we went 2-0 to start the season. So I'm good. I'm doing great. It's probably all going to blow up somehow when we lose to frickin' Pittsburgh next week, because I just know that's going to happen.
You go Steelers Chiefs.
Steelers Chiefs is going to be rough, but you know what? I'm going to enjoy the high while we're on the win streak. So,
well, I didn't have
the
to.
internet in the entire world will break that week, and we won't have to watch.
I was lucky. My game was on Thursday, so I had a nice, relaxful day. And then suddenly the Chiefs played the Bengals, and my relaxing, oh, cool, nothing matters game ended up being very much matters because I hate that goddamn team. So yeah, football is back, but we can all take our hatred of football and move it towards your hatred of me, and start with our first matchup.
Oh, I'm not ready. Silver
Linings Playbook versus the Babadook. Adam, I'm going to let you wax lyrical.
This matchup immediately makes me wish I could just see just a sketch, like a brief version of De Niro as the title character, the Babadook. That would be cool. I would love to see his take on that character. I know it's not a dialogue-driven character. So we'd have to, yield the floor a little bit there. But when we were revisiting Silver Linings not too long ago, and I was glad to have gotten reacquainted, because there's a lot I like about it. The performances are all very, very deserving of recognition. And what I appreciate about it is, even though you have the romantic tension throughout the film, it never feels cheap. It avoids cliche. It avoids a lot of those pitfalls of rom-com, so it doesn't cheat the material. And I love the relationship between Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro in that. I like it a lot. But the Babadook is after my own heart. And even before I had a child, I found it relatable. And thankfully, my child is nothing like that. But even when you are lucky and you have a good kid, there are still challenges. and when you have a kid like that, I can only imagine. And that film paints a pretty vivid picture. But I also, I may have mentioned this last time, I love how there is a preceding story. There's, we meet these characters after a tragedy, but the film avoids a bunch of stupid, lame flashback stuff. It all translates through the characters and the dialogue and everything. And I just love all the practical effects. I love the animation effects. I love that there's a pop-up book you can buy that I still want. For our coffee table.
Your birthday already passed. Calm down.
I know. I vote for the Babadook.
Mara?
This one is maybe one of the ones that hurts me the most. As we know from the opening of Scream 5 or 5 Cream, depending on how you address the film, the Babadook is an amazing meditation on grief and motherhood. So saith Tara, the far superior sister character, and should have been the protagonist from moment one. Anyways, let's not even get into the Scream franchise drama because I have feelings. And I really love the way that they put so much care and consideration into how they made that film to not like overly conscientiously not traumatize that child. Like the fact that they filmed scenes where she would be screaming at the child character with him not present whatsoever. With like either fake stand-ins or, like things that weren't him with like, just hair in edge of frame. So that way, like he wasn't even present. So even though it was pretend, it's acting, like just the fact that they thought about, hey, we're actually so deep into these metaphors that we're trying to communicate through this amazing horror movie. We don't want to even pretend about some of these metaphors that we're talking about in this amazing horror movie. So like just from a craft standpoint, also, I just really, really appreciate how much they were thinking about what they were doing. But I love Silver Linings Playbook. I am not the romantic movie person of the group. Not at all. Probably lowest on the tier list of the people that are here. But this movie, especially the fact that I love that it is, for the most part, like it's not perfect because I don't think there's really any truly perfect representation of mental illness because everyone's mental illness is different and there's always going to be something that rubs someone the wrong way because it's going to feel hurtful. But it's one of the most authentic and I feel like well-intentioned representations of mental illness, and especially how mentally ill people connect. The conversation they have when they are at dinner and they start like excitedly bonding over antidepressant medications and mood stabilizers that they have taken. I have taken most of those in my life. And the way they describe them, it's like, oh my God, this one. Oh my God, how this one made me feel. Like, oh, the side effects of this one. One of the most relatable conversations I've ever heard. And I can tell you that if I ever met a human being, romantic partner, friend, even nemesis or otherwise, I would immediately be so turned on to them as a human being, as in like, we are kindred spirits. We have a connection here. More so than any other way, it would be through that conversation. And I do love that there are two incredibly potent and significant connections in that movie. And of course, one is romantic, but one is a father-son relationship, because I think that the movie would have suffered significantly if it had just been about him learning how to move on, both in terms of his anger issues and how that was fueled by his mental illness. And then, moving on romantically. I think if it had just been that, and it had just been Jennifer Lawrence, obviously the book is the source materials, but if they had excised that to showcase their A-listers more and not focused on the father-son relationship at all, it would have just been the same, even with the mental illness part. It would have been the same dribble as most other movies are. I think that's what makes it stand apart from other movies that have a romance in them. I don't know. It also feels super lo-fi. Like, it feels very lived in. Like, the settings and everything that they have, like, their streets don't have sidewalks. And, you know, you see telephone poles on the side of the road. Like, it feels real America. It feels very, very like a real person lives in this neighborhood kind of a movie, and not the, oh, look, it's definitely a real place. It's a suburban idyll. Like, of course, real people live here. Like, it's super authentic. Like, it's definitely not only for rich people, I swear. Like, I don't know. I really, really love the movie. It was one of the ones I actually was going to like super champion for the bracket specifically. And clearly, since I've mentioned it at length, despite my absolute love for the Babadook, I'm going to vote for Silver Linings Playbook. I can't not.
Marisol.
Interesting. Very interesting. I had to rewatch both of these movies this week because I was like, right out the gate, I was just like, I have no idea which one I'm going to vote for. It's both like, I really didn't know. And perhaps I still don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's tough to put it better than both of you really did. Yeah, I will then try to summarize in the ways I can. Like, Babadook, in the ways that it's such small budget but big minded horror. It's very stripped. It's very, I mean, it's Australian, but very low budget Australian horror. And it's Jennifer Kent's first movie. It gave us her, and it gave us her voice. And I think the Babadook, in terms of approaching horror with such a personal angle, approaching it from the horror within kind of ourselves, which is one of the unsuspecting things that builds in that movie so much, about how difficult the relationship is between the son and the mother, but then how much evil, how much her own transgressions and her own guilt and her own anger. Honest, you could feel guilt, you could feel sadness, you could be going through grief, but also have a ton of anger tied in and threaded through those feelings at the same time. And the way that manifests in this monster is, I think, unique to the Babadook. I was very surprised at how dark emotionally that movie really got. That how the emotional depth of that film, even though it, for appearances, is a little drier. It certainly won't be as flashy as one of the Conjuring movies, but it still makes the most of its budget and still really gets it there. I do really love the palette there. God damn, that is the most depressing freaking palette. Like, everything looks like it's slathered in like gray paint. Like, the house, her clothes, just everything. The whole world is like gray and pale slate blue, which really adds to the dreariness of the whole movie. And the Babadook itself, the fun kind of practical effects on the Babadook just makes your skin crawl. He is creepy. Silver Linings Playbook. I agree with everything that's been said about it. I would always go back and forth with it because I'd be like, this movie, like, I think it starts out, I think the first half of Silver Linings is so much stronger than the second half. I think, like, all those things, like all the kind of laid bare, I think it builds up so promising. And then the script becomes so much more simplistic and conventional and contrived, I think, in the second half. And I think, but then I also remind myself every time I rewatch it, especially this last time I watched it, I was like, you know what? It's a studio rom-com, but it happens to be a studio rom-com about two people struggling with mental illness. And it's okay for it to be that. It's not some indie darling. It is a mainstream studio rom-com. Like that, it melds two fascinating realms of subject matter that usually never meet And so I looked at Silver Linings Playbook with a little kinder eyes, I guess, this time when I looked at it. Secondly, I mean, most importantly, I probably should have led with this. Go Birds! Philly. Hello.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was
I'm
coming.
not talking about this movie, not mention the Philly of it all. And I am just going to be a sucker for anything. But I also just don't blindly love anything that has Philly. It actually has to be a good movie with an interesting take. And Silver Linings Playbook, the performances, I think everybody is wonderful in this movie, as has all been said. Well deserved for Jennifer Lawrence, because she's so exciting to watch because you just don't know what she's going to do next in so much of the movie. And obviously it tapers off and it gets tamer in the second half because the focus is really Bradley Cooper's arc towards the end, and the dance competition and everything. And so I think the revelations between the characters become a little secondary to kind of like, it's okay. It's okay for there to be the convention and all of a sudden we have to put the bets on. When there was so much richness, and the movie was fascinating enough just between the interactions between the characters. But movie's gonna movie, and I have no problem with that. This is so tight between these two. I talked about them enough. Damn. But for sure, entertainment, while still giving you stuff to chew on. Although I think the Babadook, I think they're opposites. I think the Babadook starts interesting and then ratchets up so hard in the third act it becomes great. I think Silver Linings Playbook starts wobbly, pretty great in the first act, and then levels out. I think its best is in the first part of the movie. I think they go kind of in opposite directions, but I am going to ultimately pick Silver Linings Playbook. That's the one I'm going to pick to go for, because that's the one I would. It's close, but I think that's the one I would rewatch again the most.
No, you don't get to make me go last.
Okay.
That's not happening.
All right,
you
up.
get to do that.
Okay.
I'm picking the Babadook. Have fun.
Oh, okay. Mara kind of said everything about how much I love about everything of why I love Silver Linings so much, and Silver Linings is one of my favorite movies from this decade. So I am going to go with Silver Linings Playbook.
All right, have fun doing the rest of the show.
By the way, that is one of the movies, one of the other ones that is 24/7, 365 downloaded on my phone, because it is another one of my I am petrified of flying movies, and it's on my phone for when I fly.
Yeah. Well, I also know the Babadook's going to find Jacob tonight.
Oh, Taylor will ensure that it does. Taylor's going to be the Babadook tonight.
Yeah, jackets and hats.
Jacob's going to go.
I'm going to be murdered.
It's going to be that book. Is it going to be on his pillow?
Jacob, it is not too late to get married as the Babadook. He was fancy. God. He was a fancy gentleman. I will bring her forms.
I actually don't know if she's coming back.
Oh no.
All right, next up.
Oh dear. What have I done?
Oh God.
Taylor, you can make it. Taylor survived the stream where La La Land got kicked out. She'll make this. She can do this.
I truly was very torn. That one was one of the hardest ones for me.
That one was tough for me. You saw me work it out.
I'm sorry, Taylor. I love you.
Taylor. I don't know if she's coming back. I'm gonna move on to the next one, and then hopefully she comes back for the ending of it. So next up, The Big Short versus Skyfall. Marisol, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh yikes. Okay. So interested by this drama.
You're up.
Okay, I'm up. Okay, all right. I'll speak. I'm up. This one is a little tough for me because I gotta break them down. Which while one of them is what I think one of the most enjoyable Bond films, not the best Bond film, but Certainly, absolutely, especially when we're doing like a centennial like retrospective on the Bond series. Skyfall is absolutely going to be considered one of the strongest Bond films. In that regard, just the ways that it classed up the joint, it suddenly Bond films, it kicked off Bond films suddenly being these kind of like prestige like action films. Like it entered them into that. It's amazing to think that just 10 years before this, frickin' Die Another Day came out. One of the goofiest, messiest, cheapest, schlockiest low points for the Bond franchise ever. And then suddenly Mendes, like I just said, made them seem like prestige action films suddenly with Skyfall. So Skyfall deserves a lot of credit in that regard. I do think particularly the second act echoes too much, I think a little too much Dark Knight energy, and I think that it's suffers from being a little bit of two films kind of put into one. But everything is the production value, everything that we've talked about before with Skyfall is on display in spades. I think about set pieces from this film. I think about character moments from this film. I just think about just the lushness of the cinematography of this film so much. It has its place in history already in this franchise. The Big Short also has its place in history. I think it's a big moment for a comedic filmmaker, an SNL writer. It's always a big moment when they tackle something a little bit more serious. And I have a hit or miss relationship with Adam McKay and his attempts at political satire. But I do think he has already carved out the end result. I can be hit or miss with his films, but I do like the way that I do actually appreciate his efforts here, and I appreciate his voice, his cinematic voice. And I think The Big Short was a little powder keg of a movie, a big powder keg of a movie that woke a lot of people up. There already were movies and documentaries about the mortgage crisis, the financial crisis of 2008. But you can never have too many of them. I still haven't seen Margin Call. I really am looking forward to seeing that. I just have to see that one. But say what you will about, I find some stylistic approaches and the smugness kind of the Big Short to be a little obnoxious at parts. I still think the narrative framing of the hedge fund managers and the brokers and the traders who were still involved, who were still betting on the economy to fail, for this crisis to hit. They were still opportunistic. They were still trying to get theirs. They were still trying to get money out of the situation. Even they're not quite martyrs, and the film still kind of gets a little muddled in that line of trying to make, like, yeah, Steve Carell is one of the angriest, and you agree with so many sentiments he's saying, but he was still just somebody trying to get an opportunity, and he was still just trying to get his out of the situation, even though he was pissed and frustrated that the situation was happening. He was still trying to reap the benefits of the market just completely crashing and burning in hellfire like this. So I think as a narrative film, it just opens up those mixed areas, and I don't think The Big Short quite clears the bar in that regard. But I really appreciate it. I get into it. I got into it on the rewatch. It's clear that McKay is angry about it. I think he's at his best when he's really angry and working those feelings out through his heavy-handed political satire. And it illuminates it. The more that you can just keep saying about this, making movies about this, making art about this, making documentaries about this point, and really talking about who was at fault and talking about how it's still happening again today, The Big Short is really important for that regard. So while I would rewatch Skyfall more, I really still don't know who I'm going to vote for between these two. Skyfall, I definitely like more than The Big Short. So actually, you know what? It's not that complicated for me. I am going to vote for Skyfall. Big Short is entertaining, and I'm happy that it exists. But I totally am gonna like watch Inside Job again and just keep that train going. But I am gonna put on The Big Short again, but not as much as Skyfall. That's really what it comes down to for me.
Taylor, do you want to go now or?
I'm not talking to you.
Okay.
Hey, Taylor. Hey. Yay.
Okay, so I'll go real quick. I don't like either of Adam McKay's follow-ups to Big Short. I don't think either of them have landed for me at all. I think both of them. I think a lot of the problems you have with Big Short, I see a lot more in the follow-ups. Big Short works really well for me. It's the one that works extremely well. I really thoroughly enjoy The Big Short, and I actually do think it is extremely rewatchable. I really love this movie, but I agree. I love Skyfall, and this is a tough matchup, but out of the two, that if I'm going to watch it right now, I'm probably going to go with Big Short, just because, that's kind of where I'm at, because Skyfall's not Casino Royale. So, yeah. Mara.
This is another really tough matchup. This week, I underestimated this week. I love movies like The Big Short, a movie that sneakily uses entertainment to teach you about something. That is one of my absolute favorite things in the entire world. I was very late to the party on this movie, much like the other movies of that year. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because it's weird, because I have a really strange affinity for weird. Now, granted, I understand that he's based on a real person, but typically they're just regular fictional characters, but weird portrayals of human beings or just anybody. But Christian Bale is doing something that really works for me. I like it. But I really like it. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. I just felt the need to mention that because I have therapy tomorrow, so I'm just getting ready to share now. So anyways, yeah. But no, I was aware of what happened, obviously. Plus, I did benefit from it in the sense that I bought my very first home in 2008 when everything did crash. I was lucky enough to be able to afford to. And when I did sell it in 2016, I was just lucky that I was able to also, do that as well. So, obviously I wish it hadn't happened, because I wouldn't wish that situation on anyone. But, I will say that I was able to capitalize on it, from the consumer angle, not from the, oh my God, I'm going to know it's about to happen and still make money on it angle. So I just want to be very clear on that. But I didn't have as big of a grasp of the precursors and just how far in advance smart people saw this coming. I thought it was much more of a the thing from every movie where someone gets hit by a bus and you notice it just before it happens if you're a smart moviegoer, but no one else does. I learned very, very much about my country and how we constantly fuck things up. And how we also still don't really learn our lessons if we're looking at the economy now. So anyways, depression, Skyfall. If I dissect, I've seen every single James Bond movie more than once. Well, actually, I think there's maybe one movie I haven't seen more than once because it's just real bad. But dissecting which one is my favorite, which one is the best, two very different conversations. But Skyfall is very much up there, both for rewatchability, and in both of those conversations, it's in there at around the top-ish arena of 5 to 7 films. I really love the quality. Sam Mendes is one of my favorite directors. You got the Adele song, everybody. How have we not mentioned Adele? It's one of the best Bond songs. It's real good. And yeah, it's a gorgeous movie. I have some minor issues villain-wise with it. It's actually one of the only small detractors for me. It's mostly in the plan. It's not the portrayal. It's not the character. It's the plan. The plan is a little extra cuckoo bananas for as much as they tried to ground Bond a little bit more in this new incarnation. Shh, you're fine. She thinks she's dying. She's not. They get fed really soon. Anyways, but I just think that the pivot to saying like this is a deeply personal story, the way we get to say goodbye to M, it really works for me. It works and it makes me feel a human feeling for a human being. Very, very tough to do. This is a very, very tough choice. I love the fact that The Big Short is not trying to make me feel real feelings. It's trying to make me think things in my logical part of my brain. Not that I'm saying I don't feel for people that were severely affected by that situation. Not saying that at all. Skyfall is giving me colors and oh my god, the score and like cinematography and James Bond doing James Bond things, and he's moist and there's just all sorts of stuff happening. He is. It's a fact. He goes into water multiple times in the film. He goes into bodies of water. It happens. But I don't know what I want to do. I would say that I have rewatched Skyfall far more than The Big Short, but I also saw it like I just had an opportunity to watch it more because of watching Bond movies more. I don't know if I should do this on rewatchability, if I should do this on intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to say Skyfall, at least for craft. It's just, it took it in such a different direction, and they really had to do some course correction after Quantum of Solace. So, I mean, that was just a huge divide in terms of quality. Get out of the sink. Jayla, get out of the sink. All right. I'm gonna pick Skyfall and get my cat out of the sink.
You talking to me yet, or still no?
I'll talk to them.
Okay,
Not to you.
fair.
Here comes the penalty box.
I fixed it. There's 2 now.
And
yes, that's correct. Jayla from Star Trek is in the sink.
Because I do actually really like both of these movies. I think for me, it's kind of an interesting like parallel happening here because I don't really like any of Adam McKay's other movies. Like not really. Like I kind of do, but not really. They definitely get worse as they go on after this. And then Bond, I don't like most Bond movies. Most Bond movies are trash, garbage. So they're like grossly like misogynistic, like in a way that's just like horrifying.
Just to give a little bit of context here, over the course of about 6 weeks, I made her sit down and watch all 24 of them. So.
I just reminded myself that in real time too. I was like,
I had a real life Bond marathon
in a row
that was a lot mentally to be put through. Anyway, so that I have that kind of parallel going on here, where these are like the gems amongst the garbage that they are in their respective kind of categories here. But they're so different, obviously, in what they're trying to achieve. I think for me, it's crazy because I really love the absolutely stacked casts in both movies. They just have some talent going on in both. I think for me, what it's going to have to come down to, just because I don't really have anything to base it off of in any sort of substantial way, is like, which one would I rather put on right now if I was going to watch one, and that's Skyfall. So I'm voting for Skyfall.
Damn. All right. Well, Adam, where's your vote going?
Me?
Yep.
Well, since you brought up Dunstan checks in, look, I am jonesing for that 90s bracket. Not that Dunstan's going to make it.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I'm going to get you to see that. I'm going to get you to watch Dunstan Checks In and Baby's Day Out.
90s bracket's going to kill me.
That you somehow ignored. but I'm gonna still get you to see it. All right. I rewatched Big Short last year. So glad I did. So much of that movie really works. I was mentioning this to you recently. Oddly enough, the thing that works the least for me is my good personal friend Ryan Gosling. I love him in pretty much everything. Don't love him in The Big Short personally. I don't. I find him to be overly expository, and I get that that's the point of his character, and it's meant to be fun, and that's the Adam McKay beat, and that's fine. But I'm rooting for that guy in pretty much everything he does, and the fact that his character grates on my nerves is a bummer. That said, I'm getting that out of the way early because there's a lot I like about that movie. I love Christian Bale. And my big takeaway when I rewatched it was how invested I was in Finn Wittrock and John Magaro's subplot. I mean, it's not really a subplot; it's really a main thread of the story when you rewatch the film, and it's not something that's as discussed. Even though, like, people who've rewatched The Big Short a lot, like, know that's a big part of the story. Them pitching, or them like being ahead of the curve the way they are, and trying to get people's attention, and I appreciate that Brad Pitt shows up, and his character, similar to Gosling, is very expository. However, I really like his presentation of it as a performer. I think one of Brad Pitt's superpowers is, his occasional subtlety, his subdued nature, and I really like that in this movie. And I like the way it illuminates the time period. To your point, Margin Call is a great movie, but I've only seen it once, and it's worth revisiting. But it's kind of it's so close to when it happened that the nerves are so raw, and there's so much anger in that film, as there should be. Big Short has some perspective, which I really appreciate. And Skyfall, I will say, of the Daniel Craig movies, is definitely upper tier. I really, really like it. I do think that in terms of the overall Bond, oeuvre, if you will, like, I understand why people are passionate about it. I think the final act, as enjoyable as it is also just a kind of a cathartic release for Bond fans. To see him get to, just set up traps like Rambo is really, really fun. And also M is great in that. Albert Finney showing up, with this character with all this late in life advice. I digress. Look, I don't know where this is going. I'm kind of on the fence.
It's the Skyfall's made it through.
Fair enough. I hope something checks in then.
Okay.
Fair. All right. With that, Skyfall does make it through to the next round. Mara, Dr. Sleep or Jojo Rabbit?
I hate you. All right. Dr. Sleep did so much for the people that love the Shining book and that can also love the Shining movie, but that love the Shining novel and have grievances with the adaptation and some of the things that it did, or more rather didn't do, or at least at a minimum, even if you don't have the grievances, you get so much fulfillment, especially boiler-related fulfillment in Dr. Sleep. And it is just, it's so good. And I love Ian McGregor also, so don't fight. Get your face out of his butthole. there's so many things happening.
That's the second time I've heard it.
You know, we should make a compilation of all the weird things I have to say to my cats during this show. But I love him. I love him in this role. I really Rose the Hat. Like, man, it's just, it gives me all the feels. I forget if they call it, I can never keep track of like extended cut, director's cut, ultimate edition, blah, 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 blah. I don't remember what it's freaking called, but like the director's cut version, the extended one, I think it's like 20 minutes longer or something. It's like significantly longer. Totally worth it. Absolutely worth it. Highly encourage people to watch it if they haven't. It is absolutely a superior version. Like the theatrical cut is great, but it's kind of like the difference between Aliens and then the Aliens extended edition. Aliens, love. Aliens extended edition, pristine, makes it so much better. So much better. But yeah, it's absolutely one of my favorite horror movies. Like not just like 21st century, not adaptations or of a franchise, etc., just period. And I also really enjoy the fact that they give you just enough clever exposition to watch it without knowing The Shining, because there's enough pop culture like knowledge of it also, like just public zeitgeist. You don't really have to see it, and they give you enough really just kind of worked in there that doesn't feel super forced or shoehorned, like, hey, by the way, there was this hotel, Jack had an axe, by the way, ha ha ha. Like, it's done pretty as suavely and seamlessly as you possibly could, considering they do want to exposit for people that don't want to go back and watch a movie because it's old and, you know, they're Gen Z and they're too cool for school. But not that all Gen Z are like that, but you know what I mean? There's that little quadrant. But also, I love the fact that they chose to just get an actor to do a Nicholson and do his interpretation of a Nicholson, because that may not work for some people, but you know what always never works for me, basically, is like to do the rubber face CGI, like CGI. De-aging, you know, it doesn't do for me. So on a personal level, I appreciated that quite a bit. Jojo Rabbit, man, like the movie's so special to me. And I've had the great pleasure of being able to talk with Taika at length about it as well. So like just having had like conversations about like its meaningfulness and also like how much it means to him as well. Like culturally, of course, but man, this is a movie that made me cry a tear, a human being tear. I think, can we talk a spoiler? It's old. It's old enough, right?
It's 5 years old.
Okay. I truly was not prepared for the shoes. Yeah. It really is one of those moments where like they catch you off guard with like you are feeling happy music and something kind of whimsical. You're feeling really lovely with this young child, and they catch you completely off guard, but it does not feel. It feels like the best way to be caught off guard. Like it should be taught in film school. Like this is the way to gut punch an audience properly, because it doesn't feel like it's doing it just for the sake of it. It is at the appropriate point of the story for where he is in his arc. It is the exact point at which he needs that last motivation to understand exactly what the path that he would be choosing for himself if he goes through with the philosophy, you know, of nationalism and following, you know, the Nazi philosophy, etc., and the consequences of that versus, you know, how much he absolutely loves his mom. So it is just, it's perfect. And they do just enough to make you feel so super comfortable in that moment. I did not see it coming. All the movies I've seen, all the times I'm like, okay, that guy's the killer. And it's like, it's 17 minutes in the movie. It's like, how did you know? And it's like, I've already seen 3 foreshadowings. I know it's him. They're like, no, you're wrong. It's like, I know. Didn't see it coming. Not one iota of suspicion that something was about to completely and totally ruin me as a human being. I love the fact that people were losing their absolute minds about the idea that Hitler was going to be this like, comedy, funny Hitler. Because It's great satire. It's absurdism. You are supposed to laugh at Hitler. Hitler was a fucking like nutbag. We should laugh at him. Not laugh at what he did. Laugh at him because he was cuckoo bananas. And this is another example, like back in the day, early comedy and stuff, like absurdity and satire, like it was much more understood because they didn't have as many types of comedy. I love that this is a modern example of that old Hollywood type of like satire and absurdity. Because who would have ever thought I would say like, yes, Hitler's one of my favorite movie characters of all time. Like that's a sentence, but it's true. And I think he just like acts the shit out of it. I cherish the movie. I really am very upset with you. I'm terribly, terribly upset with you about this. I am so upset with you about this. I don't know what to do. I've talked and I thought that it would maybe clear things up. Oh, also, when we finish the show, remind me, I have to tell you something about Jojo Rabbit that I'm not going to say on air.
Uh-oh.
Okay, can I vote for something, but can I reserve the right to change my mind?
Well, Dunson
Yes, you
Chastain is in
can.
the bracket
I'm gonna say
now.
yes, you can. I've been there, girl.
There's
I've been there. Yes,
there's
you can.
never been a rule against
I'll
doing
allow
that.
it.
No,
We've
all
never
right.
made a rule that you
All right.
can't.
I've done it before. I've done it. Shit, I've asked for it. I've done it before.
All right.
Despite the fact that I can't believe I'm voting against the horror movie twice, I'm voting for Jojo Rabbit.
Tell. No? Okay, I'll go next. Mara kind of said it all. Like I like
I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Sleep. I really like Dr. Sleep a lot. But Jojo Rabbit, it just works on a different level, and I think you kind of summed it up perfectly, is that it finds the line where it's not laughing at what the Nazis did, it's laughing at them. And it's making you it's just showing the absurdity of it all. And that's in 2019 we needed that. So and we still need it today. So especially today. So I am going to go with Jojo Rabbit. As much as I like Dr. Sleep, I am going to go with Jojo Rabbit. Marissa?
You know me, I love finding parallels between movies when they're matched up. And one of the coolest things, I'm looking here and I'm just looking at Dr. Sleep and Jojo Rabbit. And I'm thinking about how they're both actually, I mean, you make a connection between the two of them. They're both about parallels of what happens when you're a very young kid, how certain evil can influence or not influence you when you come face to face with pure evil, how you can either compartmentalize that and how you then become an adult and have that put you on a separate path, how that can follow you and traumatize you for like the rest of your life, but you also then are faced with choices to rather succumb to that experience or use your gifts, like use your choices to kind of change the course of then the people are going to follow after you. Or like in Jojo Rabbit, like, so, you have to teach hate. But I find so fascinating about Jojo Rabbit is that this child isn't being taught hate. His mother is the opposite of a Nazi. Like his mother is the opposite. Like this child is coming from a home where he's just at odds with his mother. So I find it very fascinating. Like you teach children hate and intolerance but this child seems to have it. I find one of the things I find the most uncomfortable about Jojo Rabbit really fucks me up is like how this kid is just like so gung-ho about it, but not from a place of ignorance, because he's from a home where like his mother is like, no, this is messed up. Like, what do you like? But well, no, he knows what his mother is like even before he finds the girl in the attic. But I find that very interesting. Like usually I find Jojo Rabbit interesting in trying to put, usually I find, this is my bias, but I usually find children, this is what happened when I watched like Petite Maman, like before. I don't find children the most fascinating protagonists with these like moral dilemmas, because they can be. There's a lot of potential there because children are the world's a lot simpler to them. So there's not really a lot of like really ethical dilemmas going on with children because they're seeing the world. They're just directly influenced by the people around them, the adults around them, the experiences around them, to then make decisions from there. They're not really having any crisis of conscience. And I do really like that about Jojo Rabbit, that it tries to achieve that with the kid. It achieves that with the kid by also then having them confront serious loss. Like it's almost like it's like Boy Scouts for him at first. It's almost performative for him at first, and then when he experiences an extreme loss in his corner, it changes. It really then hits home. I like showing a very young child trying to grapple, gaining experience in real time, and then trying to grapple what kind of human being he wants to be with that. That doesn't happen a lot for kids in movies. That's what I'm trying to say. And Jojo Rabbit has like Schindler's List level like internal conflicts, except with like a 10-year-old kid, which is special and fascinating. And Taika is very unique for always trying to then be this genre balancing act to end all genre balancing acts by having it be like a wacky, like imaginary friend comedy, like at the same time with all of it. And he loves to juxtapose just crushing sadness against detached, completely absurd whimsy. Dr. Sleep is one of the best examples of really a rich, organic thematic sequel. It helps that it also had great source material. I have not read Dr. Sleep. I have not read it, but it's a huge difference between, especially this plethora of nowadays where we see studios just mandating these legacy sequels, mandating that, we make Beetlejuice, we make Ghostbusters after that. We just tell a story, like years afterward, and then we just make a story from it. Dr. Sleep has the benefit of actually like being based on really, really rich source material. So that's a good foundation to stand on. But I also think that I think it's one of the best examples, especially in, I think, this century, of a long-awaited, really, which I'm not going to call it a legacy sequel, but similar to what Stephen King did with it, in showing passage of time and really genuinely showing how much can change, how much a character can grow and evolve, and how much the situations can change, and how you can apply these themes over genre in really, really, really impactful ways, really beautiful ways, really cinematically valuable ways. I love the atmosphere. I love how the Dr. Sleep is a mix between the dreamlike, almost nonverbal, just obscure, dreamlike images from Kubrick's with kind of more like exposition heavy. I love the way it mashes those two styles together. Ewan McGregor is fantastic. I totally agree what you're saying about Mara with using our boy Henry. Oh my God, E.T. Thomas. Henry Thomas. Yes, I agree with all of that. I am going to wrap this up by saying that this is very, very tight for me, as all of these have been. So I've been trying to talk them out to get to the bottom of it. Between these two, I am going to vote with... I'm going to go with Dr. Sleep. Rebecca the Hat, hello. What a terrifying villain. I couldn't predict what was going to happen in Dr. Sleep. I felt genuinely every character was in danger. And we learned in Jojo Rabbit that people can die in Jojo Rabbit, but I genuinely felt that throughout the entire movie in Dr. Sleep. So I am going to vote for Dr. Sleep.
Adam?
Does my vote matter?
Yes, at the
Yeah.
moment it does.
Hey, we're in election season. Every vote matters.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think, look, these movies are both sequels. One to The Shining, one to Downfall. And I will say that Jojo Rabbit is the more subversive sequel, arguably. But what I also like about it is I rewatched a movie I loved watching growing up was Drop Dead Fred. And with all these, I love that movie. It's quite the reason I love it so much is because it's ostensibly a kid's movie, but it's so dark and so angry and bitter, but also has like a really constructive message for dealing with emotional trauma, especially with if you're cursed with a parent who does not have your best interests at heart. Drop Dead Fred, underrated. 90s bracket coming soon. Trying to manifest it, Jacob.
This 90s bracket's going to have like 500 movies in it.
Yes. The wild card round is going to be like an 8-week lead in. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, we got the bowling. We went bowling. We got bowling leftovers right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Exciting.
All right. I like Jojo Rabbit a lot. But I love Dr. Sleep. I love it. I love the book. I love the movie. I love Mike Flanagan. I love that Mike Flanagan has really carved out this wonderful niche within the horror genre for himself. He has his ensemble players who show up to many of his movies, including Henry Thomas and his wife Kate Siegel and Carla Gugino and many others. Just all these great, really striking actors. And I just love Mike Flanagan. He brings a lot of genuine emotion to his projects. And I think Dr. Sleep is a movie that on every level shouldn't work because Stephen King had the advantage of writing the book from the perspective of he has always felt strongly that Kubrick's version of The Shining didn't necessarily honor what he intended in the book. And then he made his miniseries, which is goofy in a lot of ways, but if people like The Shining, they should see the miniseries too. But when Mike Flanagan made Dr. Sleep, he knew that Kubrick's version was very that was the movie people knew, and he wanted to build off of that. And I think to take Kubrick's movie, which is very, very distanced and horrifying and alienating by design, and then to spin it into an emotional story, to take Danny's perspective and contextualize it with when you guys brought this up earlier, recasting familiar roles. That's so important. And for Flanagan to renormalize recasting familiar roles with new actors was so refreshing for me at that moment, because we had just had Peter Cushing in Rogue One, and Rogue One is a movie I really, really, really like. I really like that movie, but admittedly, when I saw Peter Cushing on screen, I was like, whoa, why? Like, I wasn't like, and again, it's not about the estate approving this stuff. The estates can approve everything. That's fine. It doesn't feel genuine to the story I'm watching on screen. And I felt this recently with a recent sequel. But all this is to say, Flanagan writes and directs from the heart, and his horror movies are scary and impactful and emotional. And that's everything I could want from a horror director. And I love Dr. Sleep, so I have to vote for it. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah.
All right, Taylor, deciding vote.
Why? I don't want on up.
Wow.
I didn't intend for you to have the deciding vote. You just said you didn't want to vote. So
Yeah, I still don't want to.
But you're in Arizona. It's really important, please.
If I don't get stabbed at the shot and stabbed at the polling place, we're not allowed to hand out water bottles to people, but you're allowed to show up with your gun and intimidate people out of voting. So I don't know how that works, but anyway, it's true.
I know.
That's why I'm like,
this is I don't like this. So Jojo Rabbit, I vividly remember seeing in the theater when it came out, and I just remember being so caught off guard by it, by how well it works as a satire, how well it actually locks into some really big emotional moments. That literally that frame of the shoes is something that will be burned into my brain forever. Like I will never forget seeing that shot for the first time and just feeling my stomach fall to the floor. Like that was such a powerful shot. And the movie really achieves, I think, what it set out to. Dr. Sleep is so interesting to me because I don't think I necessarily love the movie, but I think about it a lot. Like it's one of those movies where like it just kind of like gets in here, even though I don't know if I love it, and I just like think about it, which I think is so cool. Like that's something I love about movies is you don't even have to necessarily love a movie for it to like stick with you and for you to think about it. And I do really appreciate that it is a movie that's taking a story that a lot of us are familiar with from seeing The Shining or reading the book or whatever it might be, and getting to have new actors tell a version of that story, and expand upon that story that we've seen or read. And I think it does a very effective job with the tone that it strikes. And I don't know. It's tough for me because I think there's one that I like more than the other, but I don't necessarily know if that's like the right way to go. Like I'm having a weird kind of like trying to talk myself into how to like vote for this, which I feel like is most of this show at this point, where I'm like, how do I just arbitrarily be like,
so far everything has come down to a deciding vote at the end.
I know. So this is terrible.
I think collectively, can we say fuck you, Jacob, on this one? Because we all like both these movies.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I don't know why, but I'm gonna vote for Dr. Sleep. I don't know why, but I am. I don't know. I feel it. That's just I don't know.
Okay. Dr. Sleep makes it through.
woo.
That's
It's
just
a
what I
fantastic
feel.
movie. I'm not mad.
Jacob's mad.
You should be happy.
All right.
You knocked out a Kiwi. There you go.
Fair. Next up,
Taylor
she's
just
out of my
the
list
Nazis.
versus the Big Sick.
All right.
Listen, as fun as she's out of my league is, let's not play around here. All right?
Did you watch it, Jacob?
No,
Nope.
he didn't. So, which is also
Are you fucking kidding me? You had an extra week.
Yeah, I
and
know.
he still didn't watch it. So that's also why I'm mad.
I'll get to it.
You fucking better, I swear to God. I love The Big Sick. I watched it as soon as it dropped on streaming. Like as soon as it came out on streaming, I watched it. And then as soon as it ended, I literally hit play and watched it again because I like to suffer, apparently. It's one of the few movies where I literally finished it and went, I have to watch that again immediately. Like I have to experience it again. It is awesome. Like it is so emotional and so funny, and it has such a great tone. The cast is great. Like Camille and Zoe Kazan are great in it. Holly Hunter and Ray Romano are great in it. It has one of the most awkward, funniest scenes in the cafeteria. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's just one of those movies that I try to literally talk everyone into watching, and I clearly am not successful at that. No matter how much I yap about it, trying to get that to happen. And look, I really like She's Out of My League. I do think, for the most part, as a comedy, it does hold up. And I just have fun with it. But against the Big Sick, it's just not happening. Like, in no universe is that happening.
Mara?
Everything we talked about the other day about the thong song is happening because of what you've done, Jacob.
Kill me.
You have brought this on yourself. And it's fine that no one else knows what we're talking about. Everyone will know eventually. Anyways,
Your
The
truth
Big Sick
will out.
has maybe one of the most laugh out loud worthy jokes that I love so much, that I cherish, that I want Jacob to laugh at with me, that I want to be able to reference and talk about. And I can't because he won't watch the movie.
I'm glad everyone else is as mad at you as I am for this, and it's not just me.
I'm going to vote for The Big Sick. Thong song time, bitch.
God. Adam.
Yeah. Fun fact. I've been sitting here thinking, I'm like, why do I have like this song in my head? Marisol and I went and saw Fits and the Tantrums this summer. We went to a concert and they were there. And they sang the song that has nothing to do with this movie, but happens to have the same title. It's a catchy tune. I haven't seen this movie, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't make it happen. But I also know, with all due respect, that it's very unlikely I would vote for it over The Big Sick. The Big Sick is very special. A movie that, when it came out, suffered because of its release as a streaming film when, you know, the industry was still trying to find a way to normalize streaming releases and give them their arbitrary theatrical window so that they can be nominated for shit. At the end of the day, the Big Sick is just like a really great movie that thankfully is very watchable right now. But I haven't looked into this recently. Do you guys know offhand, is there an available physical release of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, good. No, to be fair, a lot of films that are financed by Amazon you can get on physical media. Paterson is an example that comes to mind. So I figured, but anyway, Big Sick is excellent. It's got my vote. It would have my vote regardless. I'm sorry. I love Jay Baruchel, but I don't know, guys. I don't know about this one. I'll be completely honest. This is one of those that just right out the gate, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get around to this, guys. I'm sorry. With all due respect. I have seen a lot of new movies because of this bracket, and I'm proud of that. I finally saw The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That took for goddamn ever. I'm not even kidding. It too long. She's Out of My League didn't happen. What can I say?
Marisol.
Yeah, thank God we're not MacGrubering this one. This is not even
MacGruber!
No, this is not even close for me. This is absolutely Big Sick.
You guys got your DVDs though.
It's absolutely Big Sick. It's not even close.
Wait. We can bring back MacGruber in the final round.
Still
Right?
butthurt about Blue Jasmine. Let's move on.
I'm just gonna give She's Out of My League its pity vote, but yeah, Big Sick moves on.
Why?
Because someone still hasn't seen it.
All right.
Looks like now that's moved on, you might have another chance if it keeps going.
Lego Movie versus Hereditary.
Oh,
It's really a hardcore thing for the Lego movie.
Like Lego movie's like, whoa.
I'm going to go first. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to vote for the Lego Movie. And then I'm going to let everybody else have their fun. Thank you very much.
Marisol.
I don't know. All this did is make me imagine Hereditary remade in Lego form. Like, that's all it made me read.
It lends itself. It
Yes,
lends itself.
How easy
It
it
does.
would be to like do the
With the
finale with
dollhouse.
Legos. Yeah.
Hole in the head popping off. It
Yes,
just goes.
how easy would this movie be able to make? There's so many
Guys,
heads
I think we
popping
can buy the Legos where we can make this happen.
up. I think
I feel like we can make this happen.
Yeah, but
The
the budget, will be
Hereditary
high.
Lego
The budget to
But
do that would
seriously,
be higher
think
than
about
the
the
Hereditary
adult
budget.
Lego sets they made.
So?
They made a Hereditary Lego set. That shit would sell out like crazy. They could charge $1,000 and people would just buy it.
They
It
would.
would just, no doubt.
They made
Yeah.
messed up Lego versions of every horror movie that would happen.
Oh, man.
Like,
I
so.
mean, we bought the Hereditary gingerbread house set. So yeah.
Oh God!
I have the Hereditary Evil Grandma's calendar. It's amazing. I kept it. I'll send you pictures, Mara. It's amazing.
Oh
Jeez.
god.
Oh God!
All right.
Am I up? Wait, it's me.
Who's up?
You're out.
Oh, it is me. It is me. Oh man, I love me some Lego movie. I love me some Lego movie. It's so fun. I say everything is awesome so much. This is the only thing Chris
Pratt.
I was like, well, yeah. See, that's like that was an epic brain fart, and that was just like that's how generic this dude has become for me. But yeah, Pratt indeed. But this is the only voice work Chris Pratt should have ever done because it just fits. He fits this character. This is the template of the Barbie movie, but that's okay. Or maybe I should have reversed this if we talk about Barbie. That's okay. Barbie was like, wow, because it's so fun, because it's such a fun thing to do. And Lego Movie is the template for movies before. This fish out of water comedy, genre comedy that is really, really fun. This movie doesn't stop moving. It doesn't stop clicking. It's got something for the kiddos in there. Of course, it has the whiz bang, color, zoom, toys, everything for the kids, and then all the clever jokes for adults. It's the best. It's like movies before it, like Shrek, like Aladdin, like Toy Story. It's the best kind of family entertainment. Lego Movie is dazzling. It is fun. It really established Lord and Miller, especially a few years after 21 Jump Street. It really established them as some of the sharpest, zippiest studio comedy writers in the game. And it's fun. It's imaginative. Hereditary, though. I am voting for Hereditary. I am voting for Hereditary because I would never classify myself as a horror fan. But I do like watching horror. I do enjoy it. And I really enjoy, I don't like slashers. Slashers don't interest me at all. So the horror that does really gets me going, really fires up my engine, is really, really messed up psychological trauma horror like Hereditary. Stuff that really finds the horror inside us, like pulls from the darkest places in the human psyche and makes a terrifying film surrounding that. And Hereditary is that to a T. There's so much sickening dread in this entire film. It makes me almost nauseous. And then when you couple that with a performance of such layers, such expression, and so many micro expressions, and such shrewd depth as Toni Collette's in this, it's tough to look away. And this movie just makes my stomach turn. It's so uncomfortable, and it is one of the best examples of this century of what the genre can do. And just to sink under your skin, deliver the bone chilling, deliver the gore, deliver the actual horror, the physical, manifest some physical horror thrills, and then give you something that's just going to keep you up at night because of how sinister it got. Man, Hereditary is great. I hope it goes far.
Adam.
I just don't know. I don't know what to say.
Do you?
I don't know where I stand on this, Jacob. You might have to come back to me, my friend.
Really?
Oh, come on.
Nobody's bigger.
So Hereditary, before it even came out, that was a little like mini blockbuster event for me in my life, because I saw that at 11 a.m. on like a Friday, because that movie didn't get a Thursday screening where I was at the time. And I remember I got tickets to see it like first thing in the morning on Friday, and they had to bump the screening, and there was a whole thing. But anyway, I saw it. It was delightful. And I may have mentioned this last time we brought up Hereditary. Forgive me. I do the dad, old man, repeat shit a lot now. So, but I just have to say, ceiling moment, all-timer theatrical moment for me, because it happened. You see what's going on. Guy off to my right, completely in the back of the theater. Oh, shit! And it was just the best. It was the best. I was so happy. I was so happy because he just articulated what we were all thinking, but it was beautiful. It's beautiful. You see your mom climbing on the ceiling. What else are you going to say? But oh, shit. Like, that's horrible. That's a horrible image. I love Hereditary. It's tempting when you really just are impressed with the way a film is crafted, to the point where you're just like, it's tempting to call it perfect. But I think calling Hereditary perfect, or calling, let's say, The Shining perfect, or any number of horror classics that I just think are pretty much impeccable, I think calling a movie perfect sells that movie short. I think that's silly, because Hereditary is just elemental when I watch it. That's how I feel when I watch it. I feel like it gets into my bones in a way that is really hard to achieve. And it's not just because it's unsettling and spooky. It's because it's emotional and raw and very, very honest, to the point of being uncomfortable, and obviously very confrontational. And if you're tuning in right now, I just described the Lego movie. To keep it spicy. Lego movie's awesome. I don't want to piss on that movie. It's great. It's great. It's so charming, so clever, so fun. But I gotta vote for Hereditary. It's where my passion is, and let's go. Come on.
Wow.
Okay, so I really love the Lego movie. I do. And I'm going to start with one thing that I really love about it, because I do have one major grievance with it that I'll never let go of. I was so impressed by it. It and Into the Spider-Verse are the two movies that, like, I think have done the most in terms of like innovating animation of late. Like just something that I have not seen, where I'm like, oh my God, this is something new. Like this is something amazing that my eyes are seeing and digesting. And especially again, with like lots of color and depth of color, as someone who's color deficient, I find it just delightful and very stimulating to watch. And at face value, again, love it, love it, love it. The only thing I have a problem with, especially with a kid's movie, is that if you look at what its message is in any way, it is incredibly contradictory. The entire, like, so I'm an adult Legoer, like I build. Also, the freaking Lego show on Fox is fucking rad, and never before have I ever advertised for Fox. They don't pay me, but if you would like to, I'll take your fucking money. But like seriously, the competition, like Lego show,
Lego Masters
is fucking amazing. It's amazing. Totally worth it. You can go back and binge. Hashtag not sponsored. But as a person who builds Legos, you have to follow the instructions. That is the entire point. And so the fact that the whole like ethos of the movie is, no, you don't have to follow the instructions, yet the whole movie is Lego, it bothers me and it hurts me, like, because it's so contradictory that my brain doesn't understand. So I don't like that. Not that that diminishes the movie. That's just like a personal, like, it doesn't matter though, because honestly, Hereditary could go up against almost anything and I would be voting for it because this is coincidentally another movie that is a fantastic dissection about grief and about motherhood of all things. So, and also I love the added layer that because she doesn't know that this is a supernatural occurrence, she thinks that her family has been plagued by generational mental illness. And she's trying to cope with that as well. And I love that avenue because it's just so layered. Because, you know, of course, we have that dramatic irony because we know she doesn't know. The effects, I think, are very, very good because I think it's just gory enough without being a little bit too much, unless you're incredibly sensitive, in which case I totally get why Charlie's severed head would not be for you. I love all of the incredibly deep little details you get after you watch the movie over and over and over again, which I very much have. The score is so extra, especially at the very end, like with the Payman, like, let's bow to Payman. OMG, we finally got you a little boy body with a penis. Yay, you happy now. Like, it's so extra and I love it. And I love it so much. I saw it at the London Hotel screening room, which is pretty small. And everything was calibrated wonderfully, spectacularly. Like, you could definitely see the corner, like at the perfect moment. And the sound design in that room, it was horrifying. It is maybe one of the most uncomfortable and frightened. Like, I was biting my own hand, which doesn't happen in a movie. I was frightened, deeply uncomfortable. It was thrilling and I had such a good time. Like my Apple Watch, like pulse and blood pressure and everything was like, girl, you're hurting. And it's like, yeah, I'm having such a good time. Cherish the movie. I think it's fantastic. It's just such a shame that we haven't outgrown the Academy stigma. Like, we got so lucky with Misery and The Silence of the Lambs, and yet we're still little baby children because she absolutely deserved a nomination. Did she deserve to win? Long ass conversation. That's not for this forum, but she deserved a nomination. Absolutely. I can think of very easily exactly one person that could have gone without one for her to get it because her performance is a masterclass. And yeah, I'll thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right. Well, with that, Hereditary, it does move on to the next round.
Damn right, Jacob.
Next up, The Conjuring versus Love, Simon. This is going to be particularly painful for me.
And me.
Yeah. I am voting Love, Simon because I just goddamn love this movie. Even though I love The Conjuring like a lot, and it has it is one of the best movie-going experiences I have ever had just because of how funny it was with going with my friends. Love, Simon's just is a movie that just means so much to me, so I'm going Love, Simon. Mara.
Yeah. Man, I don't like you. This is maybe one of the most the weeks where I find my decisions to be the most conflicted. Although in a way, I guess that's great because I've been not upset about anything that's gone through because they're all really great movies. So yay. I really like The Conjuring. I think the first one is far and away superior to all of the things in the verse that have come after it. I think it's pretty good at balancing the idea of a great jump scare without it being a cheap jump scare. It makes me not hate their children, so I kind of care that they don't die, because typically I just don't really enjoy children as a concept. Sorry. But
it's a frightening distraction, really.
Oh, golly. And love Simon, though. Again, I love a movie that can trick somebody, a movie that can trick someone into seeing that a coming of age love story is, oh my God, love is the same, everybody. Like, let's trick you into having some empathy and putting yourself into a situation of someone else that may not be like you, and realizing that they're exactly the same human being as you are, with exactly the same feelings that you have had, just for somebody that's different than the person you think they should be with. And then maybe you can learn to have a little human being understanding. I love that. It's so hard. I don't like it. But I'm also going to vote for Love, Simon. Why am I voting against all the horror movies except for Hereditary? I don't understand. I think I'm going to have to hand in my membership to the horror movie club.
Adam?
Look, I have to own up to the fact that Love, Simon was my priority this week, and it didn't happen. Things got in the way. And you know what? Look, I can live with that on my conscience because yes, terribly.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Let's call it a spade.
That's not the first time she played that card this week. I'll tell you that much. Look,
Sure, you didn't get to it.
yes, that's fair. I can't argue that. It's science, but I still intend to see it. But I just have to say, I earned my street cred, London, because I've rented so many movies on the Amazon and the Apples because of you.
You did.
So much is not streaming conveniently on the minute. I'm just like, fine, here's your $4, fuckface. I'll watch it. and then I watch it, and it's usually worth it. I'll watch Love, Simon. I'll do it. And everything I hear about Love, Simon, I love the idea of just an incidental rom-com that happens to be about a gay kid. Yes, thank you. Let's just do that. It's just happen to be a thing. And honestly, in the wake of Love, Simon, that has become more of a thing. I don't have a whole litany of examples offhand, but it just feels like since then it's becoming more and more common. Conjuring, when it came out, I was so on board because it was an event horror film at the time. And when you go and watch it, especially in theaters the first time, it is a haunted house feature film. James Wan does such a good job in that first film of really establishing the space of the house. You see this, like, I mean, he's not the first person to do it, but in terms of like contemporary horror directors, Fede Alvarez has made this very much a thing. And I see Wan's influence on him a lot, just setting up a physical space in a film. Alien Romulus did this really well, which is why it's on my mind. Don't Breathe did it as well. But like, I love the space of the house in the first Conjuring. I love how aware I am of where the rooms are, where the stairs are, how the basement connects. I love the way that film lingers on darkness. It's very, very effective. And like everyone else was saying, when the sequels roll around, I have fun with them. Spin-offs, all that stuff. Interesting things happening. But the first Conjuring is cool because it holds a little closer to the vest. And Ed and Lorraine Warren, let's be honest, in real life, weirdos. Like, no offense.
They don't look like they're familiar with Patrick Wilson, I'll tell you that.
Hardcore like weirdos, and you know, at the end of the day, they're like, you know, in the name of the Lord, and that's cool, that's fine. But what I like about the movies is it's not so much about being a documentary about the Warrens. It's about getting to the emotional honesty of people who are that dialed into that world, for better or worse, whether it's real or not real. And I really appreciate the character work that goes into Ed and Lorraine in that first movie and gets at their humanity and the way they make the family who's being petrified by this haunting more comfortable in their own home. And I probably mentioned this last time, but I also love just the reality of You get through the first act. Maybe we should move out of this house. It's super fucked up. And then then they're like, no, all our money's tied up in this house. We got to deal with the demons. I'm sorry, but money. And that's the realest angle you can take.
Yeah, mortgage is going to pay for itself.
Because even the Amityville family fucked off. They were gone. They were gone in the middle of the night after a month. Like, nope. So
I know they can't because they don't have the rights, but I've always found it hilarious that Conjuring never did their most famous case.
Are you talking about Amityville?
Yeah.
So the thing about Amityville that's so weird is it's public domain on one hand, but the actual nuance isn't. So the stuff that has to do with the family is much more like tied up with rights. But Amityville as a concept is public domain, which is why you have basically like upwards of 50 spin-offs and sequels now that make no sense. Like there's Amityville in space and Amityville, bowling extravaganza. There's a lot of Amityville movies. So
yeah.
But Conjuring. There you go.
Marisol?
It is quite an interesting matchup. Full disclosure, I like both of these movies enough, but I don't have particular passion for either of them. But I do like both of them enough. So that's my starting point.
Both of them are convinced with that statement.
Yes. So I'll probably speak a little more broadly about them. But The Conjuring, I'm going to kind of put them in their space. This is what I do. I'll put them in like their space in like cinematic history here to help me get there. But Conjuring is fun because it is this resurgence of, I've said it before, like popcorn horror. It was a big reason. It was a big boost. And both of these movies are surprise smashes, I think, in their respective genres. And The Conjuring was just this reason to get, while it's not quite my tempo for horror, because of the like ABAA technique and style of the thrills within it. I do agree with you, Adam, is that like, I still think Conjuring 1 really did, he established this new, I do think he really did with this one, establish a new resurgence of this kind of like poltergeist level, just like a haunted house, just thrill ride that took audiences by storm. People really loved this movie. I have a friend who this is like her favorite horror movie ever. Like it meant a lot to a lot of horror fans, a lot of fans of the genre, a lot of moviegoers in general. That's not lost on me. And it inspired all these franchises, or all these films within this franchise. And you're so right about whether you're a believer in any of this stuff or not. This movie does have the angle of trying to really tap into, even more than like Poltergeist, I think, like trying to tap into why, like the emotional core of why this is happening. It was really keyed into the human element more than I expected when I was going into it. I thought the human characters were going to be cardboard, and it was just going to be about weird shits happening in the house. And I was surprised with The Conjuring with that it's tied into the fact that these imperfect, supernatural hunters are trying to solve their own problems at the same time, but that this family is trying to kind of heal and just keep themselves together and amidst this fucked up stuff that's happening at their house. Then on the other side, we have Love, Simon, which my biggest holdup with it is just all the generic trappings of the genre. And I think that it is, I still find the sentiment really, really genuine in Love, Simon. And I think it is a really, really, I think it's a benchmark movie. I know Bros would come out like a few years later, and I do love Bros. But I think Love, Simon is another example of it's an important movie, and it makes its mark by just it's okay to have just kind of this generic high school teenage rom-com about a few gay kids. Like it's I think that that is one of the things that makes helps its earnestness really shine through. Um, I do I do like Nick Robinson, although I just think I find I have my own my own personal politics come into play with the nature of being like I'm just like you, but I think the I have my own personal politics that come into play with the otherism sentiment in the movie, where I think it's a little. I think there's a presumption behind this and a little backhandedness behind it, but I'm not going to get into the weeds about that. Um, I think the romance is sweet. I love Simon. I think I'm really happy that a mainstream comedy like this exists and opens us up to and it's not lost on me how this is a movie that was accessible to a wide audience to show them to make them kind of open their eyes a little bit and realize that there are kids in their school peers who are dealing with a lot of stuff internally, and it's very fluffy and in a safe environment, and that's a-okay for a story like this. Does it make it the most like fascinating or really like layered or leveled or compelling movie going experience for me? Not at all. But it is a good time. It is a feel good time, and that's important too. So it sounds really backhanded, but I appreciate both of these movies and their place in the 2010s. And it's really close for me with both of them. I've enjoyed both of them. I don't rewatch either of them, but I've enjoyed both of them when I watch them. And so if I have to pick one, I am going to ultimately I'm going to pick Love Simon because
Wow.
I'm going to pick Love Simon.
All right.
But The Conjuring's a slightly gayer film. We all
Totally, that's a total gay allegory
Yeah.
of Conjuring. Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear.
all over it. Yeah.
Yes. But I am
Taylor.
going to pick Love Simon.
Taylor.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with what everyone thinks. I'm gonna go with The Conjuring, obviously. I'm not going with The Conjuring.
Oh, I was like, oh.
You love witches.
You love
hanging out on
horror,
top of
Taylor.
wardrobes and jumping on people.
I love thinking about The Conjuring
Yeah.
in my spare time. It's my favorite.
All right. Well, with that, Love Simon does move on. We have our
Whoa.
final two
Thank you,
matchups:
Jacob. I'm renting.
Paterson versus
Oh.
Sicario.
Can I go first?
Yeah,
I need
you're
to
up.
feed my mongrels, and so this
Okay.
is a good opportunity. I really love Paterson, but I'm going to go for Sicario. Everyone's going to talk about them at length, and I'm going to love hearing it, but I'm going to feed my goblins.
Okay. Adam, would you like to go now, or would you like to go later?
Oh, it's fine, man. It's fine.
Sounds so defeated.
No, honestly, because Sicario is my favorite film from another close personal friend, Denis. I advised him on this film. No, Sicario is fantastic. It's fantastic. I love the dread that permeates out of this movie. I know I've mentioned at least once or twice in this bracket show the first season of True Detective with McConaughey and Harrelson, because it's a show, but it feels like a damn movie, and it's pumped full of dread. And Sicario captured a similar feeling in a shorter span of time. But when I first saw Sicario, I instantly I mean, True Detective only came out the year before, but I thought of that right away. And but it's also very much its own thing, and it illuminates a lot of things happening right across the border. And again, as someone who loves Breaking Bad as well, Breaking Bad had its own angle on the drug trade. very specific. Sicario takes us completely over to the other end and shows us the brutal reality of all these people who are involved in the trade, whether it's the legal or illegal aspect or the American or the Mexican side of everything that's happening. And then Benicio's character in the middle of it, who just has his own code for things. And in the midst of all this chaos and horror, it's really easy to cozy up to his character and validate the idea that somebody is trying to organize this devastating horror that's happening south of the border in the drug trade. When we go to Juarez and we see that it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in real life, like it just is. That is a day-to-day existence for a lot of people. It's hard to fathom. So Sicario, in terms of impact, admittedly sheer thrill, because it is a thrilling movie to watch, even though it is so upsetting. It balances all of that really well, so it never feels like it's trying to make it. Nothing ever about this movie is like, oh, how badass. Like, yes, Emily Blunt and Benicio's characters both exhibit toughness in different ways, but I don't feel like this is a hero story for either of them, and I love that about Sicario. Paterson, let's be real though. Jim Jarmusch is one of my favorite he's one of my favorite filmmakers ever, but living filmmakers as well. I think Paterson is a complete home run for him. I think it's one of his 5 best movies, and that's saying a lot. I love all of his movies. I own all of them. Humble brag. No, I just love the man. I love him. The Dead Don't Die is a movie that everybody hates, and I'm like, shut up, you don't get it. People hate that movie because it annoys them, and I get it because it's silly. I have to vote for Paterson though, because I adore it. It's my soul. And I think if pressed, Paterson could take Benicio, because we all saw, well, those of us who watched Paterson anyway, I don't know where we all stand on that, but those of us who saw Paterson saw that Adam Driver, surprise, surprise, even in a Jim Jarmusch movie that's like super calm and chill, can handle himself because he's Adam Driver. That's just what he does. Because he was in the military.
Marisol?
Yeah, this is a bummer. This is a bummer. This is a bummer 5,000. It is. But you gotta pick one. Sicario, I echo a lot of what you're saying about both of these films. And I think you really put a nice point on it, where with Sicario, they're like, yeah, we have technically here, like, people desperately trying to find some moral high ground in this world. And it reminds you that, and Sicario reminds you that there are no heroes in hell. You know, like, it's just, it's a hellscape, this world. And it really taps after my cinematic heart, because I love the bleaker the better. As much as I just like cry and like openly cry and really get swept up and really like really truly home run, emotionally earnest, like really sentimental movies, I live for the cynical shit. Like that's the stuff where I really thrive and really gets my movie loving heart beating. And Sicario just always sticks with me. I'm just like, God, like, damn, every time I watch Sicario. It's haunting. It's a haunting.
It is a horror movie.
It's a non-horror horror movie. It's one of the most horrific movies of the decade, and it's not even a horror movie. and it's about all the evil. It's so sinister. It's about all the evil. Like, it's funny, we were just talking about Hereditary. This is about all the evil that exists, just that it feels almost futile to fight against in our day-to-day life. And I can't stop thinking about it right now. Paterson.
We're gonna watch it after the show.
Paterson. No, my favorite thing about Sicario, one of the most fascinating things about Sicario too, is that like it's like, oh, here, like, oh, this situation. Just imagine, just this is a nightmare, a living nightmare already. But then, hey, guess what? Sexism still exists on top of it. Like, like imagine just dealing with this whole world and being a woman, where even though people are even though bodies are getting chopped up and it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre out here, people are still going to be like, but you're also a chick. Like, like on top of it, you just have to still spend your time. Even though this is what we're dealing with, guys are still like, I don't know, you got boobs. Like, like
Roland is very scared of her parts.
You still have to prove yourself every day while this ghastly cartel war is going on. There's still qualifiers for like trying to battle these demons. But Paterson, Paterson, especially, I would encourage anybody, especially people in a relationship, just sit down and watch Paterson with somebody you're in a relationship with. Spoilers. And just try not to feel something like watching that movie. It'll tug on all those heartstrings, all those everyday relationship heartstrings, and you will feel everything about this so vividly realized couple and their quirks and the simplicity of his everyday to day life. You can already probably tell that Jim Jarmusch and Wim Wenders are just are two cinematic voices in such synergy. This would make an amazing double feature with Wim Wenders' Perfect Days, which just came out last year. No way he didn't like see Jarmusch making Paterson. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own Paterson. I'm gonna make Perfect Days. If you love Paterson, absolutely watch Perfect Days. They're sibling movies. But yes, Paterson, for a movie that showed you how fucked up the world is. Talk about opposites. For a movie that shows you how fucked up the world is, like Sicario, Paterson is a movie that shows you like, oh, the world's a really gorgeous place if you just sit on a bench and just look outside one day. Like polar opposites. Like both of these movies, it's alarming how different all these movies are. I will say though that like if you put Adam Driver, you put Paterson in Sicario, he would probably knock some heads though. He would. To your point earlier, Paterson would take out the cartel. He would. I just say he very well might, especially if he's Adam Driver.
We're gonna get an Adam Driver kills everyone movie eventually, and I'm here for it.
These two movies
that'll be great.
These two movies are wonderful. I do have to pick one,
and
if you can't maybe already tell, I am gonna go with Sicario, just because my heart is black.
Was it always black?
Yes.
Tell.
Yeah, I don't like this one either. Because they're so different, and that you have to be in such a different mood to watch each of them. Like one of them is so quiet and contemplative, and so just makes you kind of slow down and just like appreciate things. And the other one is like the world is fucking just on fire and you're all doomed and it's just a fucking mess. Like, but at least you get to look at Emily Blunt and you're like, okay, all right, I guess. Yeah, they're just so different. That this is like the worst, actually. I don't want to pick. Well, okay. I'm gonna take the cop out. I'm gonna pick Paterson because I know what you're gonna pick.
Yeah.
and it's not Paterson. So I'm going to
It's-
give Paterson the love it deserves because I know. Because guess who also hasn't seen Paterson? Guess who also hasn't seen Paterson?
Yeah,
Well,
but
Virginia
I'm going.
Doesn't believe in love, and
That's mildly alarming. but-
Mildly. Yeah, I am gonna go with Sicario. Like, just even, and honestly, even if I had seen Paterson, I'd go with Sicario. Sicario, like
Damn, that's-
Villeneuve.
okay.
There's very few movies in this bracket that would have beaten a Villeneuve movie. So yeah, I am gonna go with Sicario. All right, Sicario does move on to the next round. Final matchup.
Ugh.
Lady Bird versus True Grit.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I watched True Grit very recently, like maybe like 6 months
Start
ago.
of the year we watched it.
Yeah, beginning of the year, because I had never seen it. And I really don't get it. Outside of Haley Steinfeld being incredible in it, because she is, I am like, I don't get the hype. I do not understand. And maybe it's just like I'm not super into the genre generally speaking, so that might kind of have something to do with it. But the fact that Haley Steinfeld is like running circles around everybody else in that movie is kind of astonishing. She's great. But yeah, I don't know. Something about it didn't click for me. Whereas Lady Bird, I love. I didn't love it the first time I watched it, but in subsequent watches, I love it every time I see it. Lady Bird is one of those movies where I watched it and I was like, I hate this movie. And then I like thought about it and watched it again and I was like, I hate this movie because like it reminds me of myself and I hate movies that like do that to me. So then I had to rewatch it, like kind of having that in mind and like trying not to bring my own like that kind of shit into it. And I really do like it. I think it's a great movie. I think Saoirse Ronan is astonishing in it. She is awesome. Fuckboy Timothy Chalamet is super interesting in film. He's like that. He is very much like the worst kind of guy that you ran into in school where you were like, okay, well, no thank you to any of that. I love it. I think it's just so, it's such a specific story. I've heard, people say, if you are familiar with Sacramento, if you're from Sacramento, like it's such a specific movie where you're like, yep, that makes sense. Like all the little details about it are so specific, which I think is really, really cool because it's not just some kind of generic, they're in California, like they're in LA, like it's just whatever that means, like just throw that kind of stuff on it. It's very specific, which I think is so cool. Yeah, I will probably at some point have to revisit True Grit, and hopefully kind of have that similar experience where it's like maybe on a rewatch I appreciate it more. But this one's pretty easy for me.
Marisol?
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to rewatch True Grit. I really did. It's been a while since I've seen True Grit, and I really wanted to make sure I rewatched it before this week, and I didn't get to it. I had rewatched Lady Bird, I think this year. Lady Bird, I have loved and do love. I just think that it's one of the best examples of coming of age where it's just like our protagonist isn't just like, it's one of my favorite kinds of coming of age where our protagonist isn't just doe-eyed and wide and hopeful and they just have to deal with the hardships of the world out there. Our protagonist, our Saoirse Ronan, she has a lot of stubbornness and flaws within herself. And part of growing up is to learn how to fucking deal with that. Like be a bigger person and be honest with yourself and realize that we all have a lot of kinks and shitty parts of ourselves that we have to really reconcile with in order to grow up, in order to just grow the hell up. And that's why I think Lady Bird is one of the best the best coming of age films I've seen in a very, very long time. One of the best, absolutely best of the decade, along with Eighth Grade. Rest in peace. Thanks, Jacob. But
Yeah, Jacob. Jesus.
good Lord. But yeah, Saoirse Ronan is my queen incarnate. She's my goddess. She's my deity. And she was cooking with this. This is Greta Garbo's. Oof. This is Greta Gerwig's debut directorial feature.
Back from the grave.
God, this film gave us her voice, just unfiltered, fully rounded. She arrived with this. And the relationship between, I love Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan. Not since, like, this is a mother-daughter relationship that rivals like Shirley MacLaine, like Deborah Winger in like terms of endearment. Like Shirley MacLaine is one of the all-time best at like having a dysfunctional, dynamic, dysfunctional, dynamite on-screen relationship with daughters, like in movies. And Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan are just right there, entering in. Just it was reminiscent of a Shirley MacLaine level mother-daughter dysfunction. I love that about Lady Bird. Just movies just allowing people to young people just allowing to just fail and discover and figure themselves out, and like everything I said, not just the world around them, but they're come to grips with their messy parts inside of them. And then True Grit is fantastic. You were saying it, like the fact that Haley Steinfeld showed up in a movie with Josh Brolin, fresh off of like No Country, Matt Damon, Jeff Bridges, and she was the standout performance in a film with all of these guys in it. Literal Oscar winner Jeff Bridges at that point. That she was the standout performance in her breakout performance. She's like 14 years old. That is so dynamite about True Grit. I love that the Coen brothers tackled a straight on Western. They have elements of Westerns in a lot of their earlier films for sure. But it's Coen brothers doing a Western. And it's one of the best examples, I think, of this, the modern resurgence of Westerns that got kicked off in the 2000s. And I really would really like to see it again. I remember this movie just clicking and having again, like just such a rascal group of characters. It's like the Wild Bunch. It's like, I mean, well, it's like True Grit. It's like the original movie. I really do want to see this movie again. I really enjoyed the snot of it. I remember last few times I saw it. But I am going to vote for Lady Bird here because I I think even if I did rewatch True Grit, I think I would still give the edge to Lady Bird ever so slightly because I just love the prickliness. I think there's prickliness in both of these films, but I think that it's won over with the universality of the coming of age drama, the template of that Lady Bird, which I think reaches a bigger audience than True Grit. So I'm going to go with Lady Bird.
Adam, do you want to
go? Look, shout out to the original True Grit. A lot of people don't give it, don't care. But look, no, about what I'm about to say.
No,
not that the original True Grit exists. Like most people acknowledge that. That's fair to acknowledge. But Kim Darby, who played
Maddie, not Maddie.
No. Well,
what's Haley Steinfeld's name?
Good question.
Anybody?
Sorry, we're staying in a suite tonight, and the ice machine is turned on, I think. Do you hear that?
It sounded like a foghorn.
Thank you.
We were both like,
the shit is going on?
I gotta go fight the fridge.
No, finish your point. I'll fight the fridge.
No,
I got this, baby.
No, baby. Kim Darby played Jason Bateman's biology professor in Teen Wolf 2. No one cares, but look it up. It's true. And she was the original plucky young gal in the original True Grit. I love the remake of True Grit because it's so much about calling not just the men, but people in power across the board into calling them on their bullshit in a time when so much of your survival hinged on your position in society, your ability to manipulate the law, manipulate currency, and she's out there just trying to make things fair, and she litigates it every single time she deals with some asshole, and it's great. It's so satisfying, and in true Coen fashion, it's done through very crisp dialogue that's utterly delightful to listen to. And Haley Steinfeld is just really, really great in the movie. I do think this is the turning point for Jeff Bridges. I love the man. I adore him. I'm going to watch the new season of The Old Man, and she's making fun of me for that, but I am. Look, it's great because it's called The Old Man, but Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow are both in it. So, yes. It's a fun show, right? Leave me alone.
I'm not saying anything.
She's biting her tongue. She's being so nice to me. Because I brought up Old Man. I'm going to vote for Lady Bird as well. It's late. I'm sorry. I'm going to vote for Lady Bird as well because I connect to it more. I think the True Grit remake is awesome. I love Lady Bird because Saoirse's performance is great. Laurie Metcalf has always been underrated, although this film gave her a lot of deserved recognition. Yeah, Lady Bird. See,
Mara?
I'll be short and sweet. I really enjoy the remake of True Grit. I really, really like it. It's pretty well known. I don't really like Lady Bird, but at the same time, I think I know it's going through anyway, but I think it's the superior film, and I'd vote for it despite not liking it because I just think it does have more going on, even though I like True Grit better, and it literally doesn't matter anyway. So I'd probably just vote for Lady Bird anyway, even though I don't like it.
All right. Well, with that,
I can appreciate quality over my own personal preference from time to time.
well, with that, Lady Bird does make it on through to the next round. Because I failed in my homework last week, we're going to wait and do round 3 next week so that I don't get yelled at when I don't vote for Big Sick. So, Mara, where can they find you online?
I'm currently still not really doing much, so you can let me just keep myself in my cavern. Thank you for asking, though.
Adam, Marisol?
Oh, excuse me.
Checking in.
Yes. I think we all know what's going to show up in your mailbox, Jacob.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, do you even have our new address?
We do.
Okay.
Contacted.
I mean, I do.
Unfortunately, we do, which means
I mean, I do. I might protect Jacob here and not
Look,
give it to
I
him.
don't watch McKibbler. I'm saying Dustin checks in is going to happen as well. You brought it upon yourself. But there was a Champs on Film. Please subscribe. We'll get back to it eventually once we're done with this bracket show that we love doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, and you can find me. Yes, Nate. You can go Birds. You can find me in your subconscious every time the Eagles get a win. You know, somewhere I'm losing my mind. So yeah, go watch the Birds tomorrow night.
I watched that.
Back the Falcons,
Dude, I watched that Brazil game last week with her with the Eagles on what was it on? Goddamn Friday. That was bananas.
It was a Friday night.
I had no idea.
Friday night in Brazil.
Friday night NFL in Brazil. I thought I was having a dream.
Yeah, it's the only it's how they subverted the law. It's the only time that they are allowed to do it, and it had to be out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only way that they could do it on a Friday night.
That's high school football night, bro.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why they legally cannot play NFL in America on Friday nights, and so they went, okay, we'll just play it in Brazil instead.
That's such
That
a
was
wild way to
amazing.
swerve the law. Be like, we're just gonna
That
go
was
all the
I
way
gotta
to
say,
Brazil.
That was a terrific football game. So
It was.
play
It
more
was
games in
exciting.
Brazil.
It was dramatic.
Taylor?
Yeah, I really haven't been doing much movie watching lately. I watched I Used to Be Funny on Netflix, which is the first movie I've watched in like a month at this point. It's great though. Everyone should actually check it out. Rachel Sennett is awesome in it, and it's actually really interesting. It's a bit intense, but it's a great movie. Anyway, I don't watch movies anymore apparently at this point because planning a wedding will do that to you. You just have no time or brain power or energy for anything else ever.
Priorities, Taylor.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter yelling about football now that football's back. Letterboxd, if I ever start watching movies again, I'll be there. Yeah, just I don't know, man. We have like 6 weeks till we get married, so I'm not really. My brain doesn't function anymore at this point.
Brain no working.
Yeah.
You guys can find me pretty much everywhere at Jacob London, screaming and yelling that the Chiefs just
Do the Chief thing.
are the new fucking Patriots, and it's just I love it. Absolutely.
It's your
Just
favorite.
fucking great. At least the Bills are up 2-0. So yeah. Until next time, guys, thank you so much. We will see you next week because next week's game is not going to be good. See you guys. Bye.